All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ballin' and Brawlin' is back. We made our long-awaited return
Come on.
as one of the biggest fight cards of the year takes place in Yas Island, the Etihad Arena. Let's just call it the home that Mr. Islam Makhachev built. UFC 308, live from Abu Dhabi. One of the biggest fights of the year. Ilia Topuria, the new featherweight champion of the world, set to defend his title against Max Blessed Holloway, one of the biggest stars in the sport. And then the co-main event, we obviously got Khamzat Chimaev taking on his biggest test to date, the biggest test
Common cold
of his career,
That was
and Robert Whittaker in a huge fight for the future of the middleweight division. Hebs, this is a sick card, bro. What do you think about it?
Yeah, dude, I'm fired up, man. I know we've said this a couple times this year. That's fucking the classic UFC fan dilemma. Like every other month, it's one of the biggest cards of the year. Yeah. This one is actually one of the biggest cards of the year, and maybe one of the biggest fights of the year. I know I said recently, I think the DDP versus Izzy, just in terms of like stylistically and with the backstory, that was one I was super excited about. And like when you're talking a complete toss-up, this is the same thing, man. Like right the moment UFC 300, for my money, the greatest moment in UFC history when Max shuts Gaethje's lights out immediately. Because before that, it was like, what the fuck do we do at featherweight? Who could possibly fight Ilia? The guy just sparked Volk out. Like who could be next for him? We thought Max was moving up. He might be done with his featherweight career, moving on to lightweight, and nobody even thought he was going to win that fight. And then as soon as that happened, we had a match made in heaven, right? And people at that point still thought Volk might get a rematch, but man, I'm happy we got here. I love a nice day card. I'm getting a little bit older. Sometimes these 12 after 12 p.m. Finishing times 12 a.m. Excuse me. Not the biggest fan of it, so head out to Abu Dhabi. Stacked out card. Obviously, we're missing Gan Volkov, but this is a very exciting card. Even down to the prelims, we got our boy Chris Barnett, future heavyweight king, John Jones's worst nightmare. For you guys who don't know who that is, it's the fucking fat guy who did a flip after a spinning wheel kick, and then he did a flip. It was maybe one of the coolest things of all time. He actually kicks the night off. Or I thought he kicked the night off. I've been a little confused on the bout order here. I feel like I'm seeing a couple different things, and now I'm kind of chatting for a while. So we can just get going with, and the dude who looks right from the, the Ice Age, right? Whatever his, I don't know how, I'm not even going to attempt to, Orlabai. Not going to mess with that one. We got Jeff Neal, RDA, fun fight at welterweight if you like 2019. And then we will start off with the main card, the first fight of the main card. Sharaputdin versus Armen Petrosyan. Shara, again, not a visa in sight. Guy is not allowed anywhere near the United States. It's very strange that Dana has been so open with that. Kind of a joke. I don't think it's a visa issue. I think it's I only have one functioning eye issue. For those not familiar, with the body and whatnot, you're supposed to have two working eyes. Shara, not so much. Don't know how he's allowed to fight in the UFC with that being public information. It always gets talked about how big, how many, hoops Mike Bisping had to jump through to be able to fight with one eye. So I don't get how this guy's just like openly allowed to have one eye. I don't know. I'm not really making any sense there, but he fights his biggest competition to date. They're kind of bringing him along slowly. Guy who had a ton of hype when he entered the UFC, partially just because, you have that last name, you have a neck beard. I mean, those guys get made fun of for being ugly, but that guy might be, heavy as the head that wears the crown, man. That guy is not a good looking guy. But for those upper weight classes, man, he has some pretty fun style. He's got some great kicks. He's a great striker, but, he hasn't really shown finishing power. Knowing that his last fight, I think everyone was pretty unimpressed with him. Petrosyan, he's fought. I mean, he hasn't been in the UFC for all too long either, but he's fought. Who did he fight? Whatever, fucking Leroy Duncan, is that guy's name? He fought RoboCop, Leroy Duncan. So he's fought some good guys. This line, what do you think of this line? This line's a little bit sketchy.
It is.
On paper, I think I would go Shara, but I don't know. I don't understand this line, but Petrosyan doesn't really have crazy knockout power. I'm just going to go with Petrosyan just so I could be, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum here. But I think this fight's a toss-up, and I'm pretty excited to see how Bullet does against a more put-together striker here because, another somewhat favorable matchup. But I got Petrosyan. Who you got?
Yeah, dude, I kind of agree with you on this one. You see the UFC's kind of taking this like slow come up approach with a Bullet. Obviously, I don't know if any commission in the US is even allowed to let the guy fight with one eye. So you'll see him in Abu Dhabi in these type of cards a lot. But like you said, a little step up in competition, a guy in Petrosyan who has been in there with, like you said, RoboCop. He's been in there with Kai Borello. Like he's been in there with some guys. Like
and he didn't get put away.
Yeah, and even like Adolfo Vieira, like who I'm not comparing to those guys, but it's like he's been in there with what I would say is better competition than Bullet has. So this is definitely a step up for Bullet. He's a slight favorite as we see, and I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm actually going to go with Petrosyan to get this one done via decision. But
copycat.
But I will say, dude, I think he's going to need to win this one pretty clearly to get a close decision because we all know it's Abu Dhabi. Bullet fits the Magomedov type of name. The judges will be helping him out if it's anywhere close, in my opinion. So it's an interesting and entertaining fight to start the card. I'll say that for sure.
Dude, that's my thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know if Petrosyan can put him away, but like, there's no way a decision would not go to Bullet. So, I mean, I'm a little bit conflicted, but again, who cares? I want to skip around here. Dan Ige versus Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy undefeated. Dan Ige has maybe reached kind of a legendary status in some people's eyes after UFC. What was that? 303 this past June. 5 hours notice, maybe the quickest, definitely the shortest notice for a UFC fight. Comes in off the couch, lives around the corner, gives Diego Lopez a good scrap. Great moment. Kind of for a shitty card, one of the better moments of that fight. Oh, anything is possible. You can do anything. Dana says the kid's a stud. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, we all think, he said, I want to fight on the Sphere in a couple of weeks. We thought this guy was going to, maybe have a fun fight. And it's like, every little boy's dream is to grow up and fight Lerone Murphy. So that's wish granted. Not really the best stylistic matchup for Ige. Ige, a shorter, squatty guy, a power puncher, pretty good boxer. Has been in that fringe top 10 in the top 15 for a while now. He's fought a ton of good guys. I don't know. Have you watched much Lerone Murphy? I really haven't seen him too many times.
I haven't watched like a crazy amount, but I do remember seeing at least a couple of his fights when he was like kind of like a prelim guy on like these Manchester, like Darren Till was like headlining in like England, things like that. Pretty sure he was on those type of undercards and stuff like that. And I've seen him fight a couple times. He's, like I said, he reminds me of like obviously not, and I mean, Leon hasn't really knocked people out, but he's famous for the head kick and everything. But I would say he's like I would compare him somewhat to like a featherweight type of Leon Edwards with that type of fighting style. And in this fight, like you said, bro, Ige steps in on short notice, less than 24-hour notice for the UFC. Excuse me, and he goes, "Hey, I want to be on the freaking Sphere card," and they go, "Hey, no, you know the Sphere card's loaded up with this insane talent that they put on the Sphere card, but we'll give you an undefeated striker who's better than you pretty much in every facet. He's longer than you, he's taller than you, he's got everything's in his favor. We'll send you to Abu Dhabi and we'll pay you probably $50,000 to show, but
yeah,
we appreciate you, Dan. We really appreciate you." But no, all joking aside, I think it's going to be a competitive fight. Like I told you, Ige's a good fighter. Like he's scrappy.
Yeah.
He can box. I just
got power too.
Yeah, he's got power too. This line is, I think it's getting a bit wide. I wouldn't say Lerone Murphy should be anywhere near like a minus 250 favorite, but hey, I'll stick with Murphy to get the decision in this one, grind out a decision, but this should be a pretty competitive fight, bro.
Yeah, I want to go Murphy, or I want to go Ige, but my reputation's on the line, taking a chance with the underdog in Petrosyan. I know we got a lot of people on here who, subscribe to the picks. Fuck it, dude. Dan Ige flatlines him in his backyard. Who cares? Actually, you think Ige? I don't know, bro. That was I wonder what when you're coming off a fight like that, where, a big moral victory, right? Like he went in the classic, no matter what happens tonight, he's a winner in our book. Some people who maybe hadn't heard of Dan Ige are now, have some respect for him. So like interested to see what his like demeanor is in this one. Cause again, it's very weird. It's like, he's still kind of a gatekeeper, and this is your classic, like most classic prospect, taking a step up and fighting, that kind of like fringe guy. I compared him to Rob Font the other day, cause I feel like they're always they beat guys who are worse than them and they lose to guys who are better than them. Obviously, that's not groundbreaking analysis, but like they've kind of been in the same spot for a while. I like Dan Ige, tough, scrappy guy. Lerone Murphy's obviously going to win, but give me Dan Ige by KO. Now we get into the very, very exciting fights. Man, I am fucking fired up for this one. If it wasn't for the other two fights, I would be most exciting for this one, right? That's, again, groundbreaking analysis here. But Aleksandar Rakic, one of my favorite fighters, and one of the most underrated guys in the UFC. He fights Magomed Ankalaev, the guy who's been the number one contender for years, guy who had a title. I mean, how frequently does this happen? Somebody fights in a title fight, doesn't lose, and now we're sitting here over 2 years later at this point. That was like December of 21. That was December of 21, I believe. And this guy still hasn't gotten another title shot. Very strange situation. And many are saying that maybe he doesn't even deserve one no matter what happens here. Let's hear talk to me about this fight, because I could ramble on. I am fired up for Rock.
Dude, like you said, man, this fight and the next two is just a great 3-fight trio, to end the night, bro. Can't wait for it. And this one's got huge stakes in the light heavyweight division, as all three of these fights do. But, bro, we look at, like you said, a guy like Ankalaev. It's crazy to me that 2 years ago he's fighting in a title fight against Jan Blachowicz, who at the time was like a good champ. You know what I mean? Like Jan had a good run of his little title run and his come up. Ankalaev goes in there, he gets calf kicked. His calf is clearly like done, so he converts to the wrestling and he dominates the fight, pretty much wrestling. But it's boring, but he dominates the fight, wins the fight clearly. Somehow it's called a draw, and from that day forward, as Dana says, he's on the phone with Jamal Hill 10 minutes after the fight. Hey, do you want to headline this and that, fight Glover for the title? And it's like, bro, once he got on Dana's bad side, he's been in the doghouse ever since. Now it just so happens that they have Pereira as champion, who's been an elite superstar in the sport. He's very entertaining, great guy to watch, one of the biggest stars in the sport today. And they don't want. Not that I do think Ankalaev has a good chance of beating Pereira, but the UFC doesn't want, like you said, Pereira's 37 years old. They want to milk out that superstardom as long as they can. Yeah. And this is a guy that's a big threat to him. So what do? They match him up with a guy who's arguably the toughest matchup in the division, and a guy that hasn't won a fight since he beat Thiago Santos in like 2021. So if Ankalaev comes out here and wins, which is, if he wins this fight regardless, it's impressive. This is one of the toughest fights in the division. Dana has that, he beat Rakic, guy, coming off a loss. Yeah, hasn't won since 2021. It's just it's crazy how they do these guys that are in the doghouse. But it's just getting into the fight, bro. I think in the first round, Ankalaev has to be cautious, bro. Rakic is, like we say, in round ones, when this guy's muscle and fast twitch is going, this dude's as explosive and powerful as it gets in the division. And dude, I think Ankalaev, being the fighter that he is, I think he'll be able to weather the storm, mix in some grappling, get Rakic a little worn out. And I think I go back and forth on this, but I'm going to go with Ankalaev to get this one done via decision.
Yeah, this is obviously a tough one, but the line is crazy, dude. The Ankalaev is like minus 400 or something right now, which is mind-boggling. But what you said, as soon as they announced this card, again, I think Ilia Max is like as good of a matchup as you could have made at the time. Khamzat versus Rob. I mean, other than Khamzat Rob, right? These are like two of the most exciting fights you can make in the UFC right now, back to back. But one of the most interesting things when they announced, because I remember they announced they announced those two, they announced Gan Volkov, and they announced this fight, Rakic versus Ankalaev. And one of the first things I thought when I saw this card was, what the fuck are they doing with Pereira versus Ankalaev? Because they hadn't announced UFC 307. They hadn't announced that Pereira was fighting Roundtree. So everyone kind of thought that it was going to be Ankalaev next. I still don't really know if we have a definitive answer as to why they didn't fight then, as to why Roundtree, the number 8 contender, got the shot over him. I know we know. All right. I know that, like,
you know why.
But, like, if I'm Ankalaev, bro, Ankalaev after the Blachowicz fight was like, I might be done with the UFC. I don't think I'm going to fight here anymore. So, obviously, him and Dana just seem to maybe not get along. But a couple more interesting things about this. I said this to you right before. If you were an MMA fan, if you were a UFC fan back a couple years ago, no one was calling Magomed Ankalaev like a wrestler. Like, now, just because of his name, just because of his neck beard, everyone's like, oh, this guy is like this dominant grappler. He's a great grappler. He might be the best in 205 right now, but, like, go look at his resume, dude. This guy has a ton of knockouts. And again, he was more known as like a kickboxer back like 4 or 5 years ago. So this reputation, I think it just is more like because of his name. I don't know if it has anything to do. Oh, shut up. It does have a lot to do with his put you up against the fence, and I'm going to knee you to the thigh. I might give you a foot stomp, and I might look confused and out of breath the entire time. The worst style for MMA. So for a guy, I like Ankalaev. I don't think he deserves all the hate that he gets, but you understand why he gets it, right? That is not a fucking fun style to fight. Talk to me.
Bro, what's crazy about that, though, is how, depending on what you're doing for Dana and the company, it changes. Because, bro, Kamaru Usman on his come up was a foot stomping, hold you up against the fence decision machine.
Yeah.
And eventually when Dana and the matchmakers realize, yo, this guy's going to beat pretty much everybody we put in front of him.
Yeah.
Now we have to start putting him out to the media like this mauler, this dominant. Like, it's just crazy, bro. It's crazy. Like you said, bro, Ankalaev's flatline KO'd guys like in this division. Like, but because his name is Ankalaev from Dagestan, whatever, he's labeled as this wrestler. Like, it's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And again, credit to him, he's probably one of the most well-rounded fighters, like, I mean, comparative to their weight class in the UFC, because I think you look at the top 15 at light heavyweight, he might be the best wrestler, but his stand-up is no joke. Like you said, everyone says he's this boring wrestler. He comes out and he sparks Johnny Walker in the first round. I'm not saying that Johnny Walker is anything, but he still just knocked him out on the feet in the first round. And it's like, all right, who cares? Like, that doesn't change my opinion of him. It's just weird. So I don't know if people don't know how good of a striker he is, because, man, he is a fucking good striker. And even the Jan fight, another one of his biggest fights, obviously he got like stunned with leg kicks there, kind of showed some grit and toughness to still be able to finish that fight and seemingly win in most people's eyes. But yeah, so maybe that's why he has the reputation. Again, I think the last name has to do with it. Aleksandar Rakic, as you said, the worst matchup in the division. When you're talking about the biggest guys at 205, the strongest guys at 205, his name always comes up. If you're talking about the best pure hands and the fastest guys at 205, his name still comes up, dude. So I don't understand. He hasn't quite been able to put it together. UFC 300 in April, he was just tagging up Yuri. That was like one of my locks of the night, even though everyone was like on Yuri. I thought that Rakic was just going to get it done. I'm like, this guy's way more skilled. And I looked really, really smart for about 7.5 minutes until I didn't. Yuri just, again, using that dark magic that Pereira got him with, that samurai spirit. He just willed himself to victory, right? And in this sport, it's a fucking fist fight. That can happen. I really hope that Rakic still took the good from that fight. And he just Yuri was the former champ. Yuri's got some guys on his resume. And I mean, Rakic was tagging him up. He was piecing him up on the feet with his kicks too. We've seen Ankalaev struggle with kicks. We're talking grappling. Rakic is just as good of a grappler as Ankalaev. He's probably stronger. He's way more explosive. Has he put it all together yet? No. He was beating up Jan Blachowicz, holding him down earlier in that fight, taking him down, and winning in the wrestling, winning in the striking exchanges. Blows out his knee, and the rest is history, right? But Jan Blachowicz, again, no slouch here. So Aleksandar Rakic, his last win, you and I watched together, Thiago Santos, snooze fest. I think we saw Gillum might have actually fallen asleep and done who knows what else at that night. But, dude, I'm picking Aleksandar Rakic. I was so high on him after 300. I thought that was the best he looked in his career. Again, Yuri is quite an interesting character. He won the fight. I'm picking Aleksandar Rakic in that. I think he's as good as anyone at 205. I think him versus Pereira is a great fight. By great fight, Rakic would turn into a wrestler, and, it would be a very boring fight. But I think this is going to be a boring fight. Two of the best head kick KOs in the history of the UFC with these two guys. Rakic, again, explosive guy, but sometimes, like in Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos, he likes a lot of pushing up against the fence. He likes leg stomping. He likes looking confused. Both of these cats love that. So this could be boring. But if I'm Aleksandar Rakic, I'm fucking biting down on my mouthpiece and coming forward because I know Magomed Ankalaev. Actually, I don't know. Magomed might put him out. Aleksandar Rakic, book it by KO. Let's say he knocks him out, even though he doesn't have knockout power. Aleksandar Rakic by decision. I've always said it. Not going to change my mind now. To the co-main event. One of the most exciting fights of the year, booked back in June. Was supposed to be like one of the biggest fight night cards ever. Now you can't get much better than this one. This was a hypothetical fight all during Khamzat's come up. It was like, well, he's going to be double champ. How would he do against Kamaru Usman? How would he do against Izzy? But how would he do against Robert Whittaker was a very, very interesting fight, just given the styles, given the anti-wrestling of Rob Whittaker combined with the striking. And now we finally get to see it. We just saw the hypothetical with Usman about a year ago on short notice, up a weight class. I really can't take all too much from that fight. What I might be able to take something from is the fact that this guy, the common cold, as a good friend of the program, Colby, has said many a time, what's going on with this guy's immune system? Have we ever gotten an answer? Because we've seen him pull out quite a few times. And I don't know if we've gotten like this is what I have. This is causing the issue, right? Because it seems he has these flare-ups. You see a picture of him seeming like knocking on death's door. He looks like, he's in the hospital. He's not doing well. I just don't really like that when you're going into a fist fight. I don't see how, again, I don't know. Have we heard a real answer as to why this is going on and to how we can just expect it to not happen anymore? It seems this is going to be an issue the rest of his UFC career. So, I've been back and forth for a long time. What's your breakdown of this fight? Because I kind of want to talk a little more about it.
Yeah, dude. So, this fight is huge for the division. It's huge for the trajectories of both of these guys' careers, bro. Khamzat's a guy that, just a year or 2 years ago was thought of as the biggest prospect in the sport, like the biggest uprising star, and obviously some things have halted his kind of like rise as he has beat big time guys in Usman and Burns, especially from going from he was like unranked to fighting like the number 3 welterweight, whatever it was. But injuries, sickness, whatever, visa, whatever it is, bro, it's been a disappointment to see him not be able to get out there and fight at least like twice a year. But look, dude, he's fighting a guy, Robert Whittaker, who, in my opinion, is the toughest test for him in this weight class. And I couldn't be more excited for this one, bro. I go back and forth on it time and time again. And, bro, you look at Whittaker's career, a guy who's had legendary career, former champ. Like, dude, he's fought everybody. And when you look at like who he's lost to, bro, he's only lost to the elite of the elite. And he's lost to Izzy twice. He lost to
Wonder Boy.
Duplessis, who's obviously a champ. He lost to Wonderboy at welterweight back in the day, and I think he had one other loss. He lost to Court McGee actually back in the day, early on
Trivia
in the
fact,
UFC.
didn't know that.
And I think his other two are like before the UFC or whatever, very early on in his career. But I look at the resume and I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't lose to anyone but like pretty much the elite. But the question is Khamzat Chimaev elite? And the more I think about it, I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev to come in here, put it on Robert in rounds 1, and get a stoppage in round 1 or 2 of this fight I'm saying via ground and pound TKO. Khamzat with the most impressive win of his career is able to get Rob down early, implement his game plan. This is how I look at this fight. If Khamzat can't get Robert out of there inside of 2 rounds, I think he's getting finished in the 4th round of this fight. So
that's where the 5-round factor I think plays a role. But yeah,
that's my official prediction. I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev via 2nd round TKO. Dude, check that. I'm going with Khamzat Chimaev via 1st round TKO.
Round. Yeah, there you go. So a little ground and pound, you said, takes him down, and then, dude, that's just how this fight's gonna go, right? Like, as much everyone's talking about the anti-wrestling, everyone's talking about Yoel Romero couldn't get him down. That's been, him and Aldo, I feel like, are the names that always come up with this like amazing, anti-wrestling, but like, takedown defense, ability to get back up, all these things. Romero wasn't even, or he shot a couple times, and I don't know.
But he was like that. He's like an Olympic wrestler, but he never wrestled. Like,
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, the Costa fight, I don't know if he shot like, or I don't know. That was a fucking fun fight, just a couple of juice heads throwing down. But recently, like, he hasn't fought these like guys who have been implementing wrestling. He hasn't fought guys that are shooting. What he fought, he's fought Izzy, he fought Till, he fought Cannonier, he fought Gastelum, he fought Izzy again. And then what happened? DDP takes him down, not easily, but he got him down. So, and I don't think anyone saw that happening, and definitely no one saw the finish of that fight. Man, when I watched Robert Whittaker walk in there against Paulo Costa, that guy fucking just has some shit to him, doesn't he? He's just got that thing that makes us love fighters. He's just got that it factor, man. That face when he snarls up, when he gives the biggest beating of a lifetime to his left pec, and then you just see all those marks on him. It's pretty funny. The same thing with the Aleksandar, however you want to say it. Walking into that fight, I was watching with a couple of my buddies. I thought he was going to win anyway. But I was like, dude, this is a lock. Like, put this in fast. This guy is not losing. He's not losing. But I feel like with everyone, like, are you hearing many people say that Khamzat's going to dominate Whittaker? I'm seeing more the opposite. I'm seeing more. Everyone wants to talk about all these narratives. 5-round fight. Khamzat's immune system. I mean, against Burns and Usman, he looks great in the 1st round, and then he begins to fade, and all these asterisks with Usman. Oh, he was coming up a weight class, 1 week's notice. He lost 2 in a row. He's old. Let me tell you something, dude. Throwing around Kamaru Usman a minute into the fight and already having Rogan, or I don't think it was whoever, DC, saying like, Usman's got to do something. He's got to move. A minute into the fight, like, we're at Kamaru Usman. We're acting like this guy is some scrub. And we're acting, I mean, I don't know, man. I think everything, that just shows you how good Khamzat is, right? If people need to come up with some, I'm like, dude, I don't care. It could be Usman on 5 minutes notice. It's fucking impressive.
Bro, did you see Usman talk about Khamzat the other day on his podcast?
I'm not sure what he said.
Dude, so Cejudo was basically like picking Whittaker and saying that Whittaker's going to like weather the storm and then get him out of there. And Usman literally was like, dude, I'm just telling you, like, I've been in there with the guy. Like, it's something different. Like, he's like, I think he's going to get Whittaker down and get him out of there. Like, I'm just saying, when you've been in there with a guy, and a guy like Usman, he ain't gonna give. He don't usually like to give credit to people. Like
Yeah.
he knows that Chimaev, especially at least the first round or second round, like I don't care what kind of wrestling you got, bro. I think Chimaev's like over in his weight class. I don't know if anyone's dealing with the wrestling and the just mauling for the first round. You know what I mean? You might be able to survive it, and then that's when you can eventually wear him out and put him out. But if it's a big if you can survive it.
Yeah, no, I literally right before we hopped on was just rewatching that fight. I didn't even finish it, but in the first round, dude, like I literally looked down and I think there was almost exactly a minute in and he had already taken him down. He was already controlling him and like he's just hammering away. And like obviously it doesn't really come that close to being a stoppage, but it was like anytime you're flattened out taking a couple shots, especially like from a guy like Chimaev, like DC, I think DC's like, he's like, oh, like Kamaru's got to do something here. Like he's got to like, it was a minute into the fight. We've never seen anyone. When Leon took down Usman, like late in the first round in their second fight in whatever, 22, like there was like a standing ovation. Like nobody thought anyone could get Kamaru Usman down. I get the knees. I get the weight thing. But I still have to think that's super impressive. Even he threw a kick in like their first exchange. That guy just looks different, dude. And that's why we're talking about him this way. That's why we're almost not giving him credit for being a minus 600 favorite against Kamaru Usman and then, you know, beating him. It was a close fight. And then he breaks his hand and everyone's like, oh, well, it's like, well, I don't know. It's impressive to do that. I like to rant when I don't like to make a decision. I honestly have already changed my mind. I've continued to change my mind. It sucks that now I actually have to say something because I've just changed it again. I came on here ready to roll with a Bobby Knuckles. Unfortunately, can't you just see Whittaker, or can't you just see Khamzat beating the fucking dog shit out of him? And after 3 minutes, kind of like a, you know, like at what just happened. Like everyone has the similar like Ilia versus Ilia's reaction to Holloway versus Gaethje when you're just kind of like, what was that? Can you not see Khamzat doing that? I could think with all the hate this guy's getting, maybe we've forgotten what we thought he was in 2020. And we honestly don't have much reason to think that he's anything else. So I love Robert Whittaker. I would be so happy to be wrong in this one. But I got Khamzat Chimaev by first round stoppage. I agree with you. I want to be wrong so badly. If he starts stuffing the takedowns, I'm going to be jumping off my couch. I'm going to be losing my mind.
Oh, if he stuffs the takedowns early, dude. The thing is though, it's that like Khabib effect too, where it's like, what if he's so worried about the takedown that Khamzat just lands a Meerschaert right hand straight down the pipe and puts him out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting.
I agree with you, dude. Like people for like what he did to Meerschaert, I get it. It's Meerschaert, but like that's not the way fighting works at this level. You don't just have one punch. Do you remember how long it took Meerschaert to get up? Dude. Like I think it was 17 seconds to knockout. Took him a lot longer than 17 seconds to come back to consciousness. Like that guy's got power, man. Remember, and he dropped Burns with a jab. I mean, I can take a shot if you've dropped Burns with a jab. Like, I mean, obviously everyone does that to him, but like the guy's, I don't know. I think we can maybe have forgotten who he is. And yeah, maybe he'll never reach that potential because of, you know, things outside of the octagon, because of his immune system. I don't know. I would not want to get in there and fight him. Robert Whittaker, also another factor, very long camp. He's been getting ready for this fight for a very, very long time. It was supposed to be in the end of June. I think immediately he wanted to rebook it afterwards. I mean, he's the baddest man alive, dude. I can't. I'm so mad. I'm picking against Bobby Knuckles, but I feel like I have to. Again, it's one of the. I'll be happy either way because I'm right, or you know, he wins, and I'll probably be more happy about the latter. But you ready for this one?
Yes, sir.
To the main event of the evening, the newly crowned featherweight king Ilia Topuria fights. Can't really say his biggest challenge to date because it's hard to argue that wasn't Volkanovski, but Max Blessed Holloway, maybe the hottest man in the sport right now, the guy, one of the biggest moments in the history of the UFC back in April with his last-second knockout over Justin Gaethje, moves back down to reclaim the crown that was once his for quite some time. So much on the line here, legacy. I mean, I can't even imagine if Ilia just comes out there and knocks out Holloway and Volkanovski in back-to-back fights. I don't know these conversations we're going to have about this guy. If Max Holloway reclaims his belt, we're going to have to have some conversations about him. Justin, let's get into it. Give me your initial thoughts on this one. We're a couple days out. They're getting some weird interviews. We'll find out October 26th, brother. Max, I mean, maybe his only line there, but break this one down for me here, Justin.
Dude, as big a fight as it gets in the sport today, you got a guy in Max who's superstar in the sport. He's been an elite fighter and a fan favorite for so long. And then you got a guy in Ilia Topuria who's come along. He's taken the division by storm. A guy that when he first came to the UFC, people were like, yo, this dude's the real deal. And he's proven to be the real deal ever since. Look, dude, I tell you all the time, this is what I get the most excited for in this sport is like when you talk about the highest of level of MMA, like, bro, these guys are so good that it's like, bro, one day they could wake up and Max Holloway might beat Topuria. The next day, but it doesn't matter because Saturday night, the main event is the only time that fucking matters, bro.
Yep.
Who's gonna execute at that time? And dude, I go back and forth on this fight a lot. I'm still haven't picked it until I say it right now, but the more I look at it, bro, I'm trying to see what the latest odds are on it.
Minus 240 for Ilia.
No,
returning
shit.
at plus 200.
So, like, I think the line is definitely a bit wide in this one. As I think Holloway's live, especially at featherweight, like he's live against anybody in the division. But, dude, we were there for Mr. Holloway's first run at lightweight when he took on Dustin the Diamond Poirier in a fight where, dude, he was just a little outmatched with the power. He had the volume for Poirier. Yeah. And at times it looked like he was going to win that fight, but Poirier had the power that just was unmatched against him. And dude, when I tell you, when I've been in the arena and I've seen Topuria fight very up close, and you see the power this guy has at this weight class. I mean, this guy isn't just knocking people, like he's not just TKOing guys, he's flatlining guys in this division.
Like I've never seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen. He puts people to sleep.
Dude, and people want to talk about like his boxing. And again, as a pure boxer, just hands, he might be the best in the sport today. But what people don't talk about is he's got everything for this weight class. He has calf kicks that fucked Volkanovski up. He landed 2 of them, and Volkanovski was slower moving around. He's got the grappling. He just doesn't have to use it most often. But at the end of the day, dude, I think he's going to stick to what's got him this far. I think he's going to slowly work his way into the pocket against Mr. Holloway. He might get pieced up a little bit in the beginning. He might take some shots. I think you're going to see him work the calf kicks early to slow down Max, although Max is proven to just be pretty much like prone to invincible to the calf kicks. Although Volkanovski did do a lot of damage in their first fight with him. But look, the power is unmatched at this weight class. This is a guy that I think is going to rule this division for a long time, despite the only way this guy loses, in my opinion, is by fluke KO. I'm going to be that's at least right now. I don't see anybody in this division. If he gets by Holloway, there's nobody that I think is right now that is going to give him a huge run for his money.
Aljamain Sterling.
Aljo's going to lose to Masvidal probably, so we'll see. But
yes.
All in all, enough with the talking. My final prediction is Ilia Topuria to get this one done via second round TKO. A guy who comes in, if he flatlines Volkanovski and puts Holloway out via stoppage, we're talking about, I don't care what you say, we're talking about a guy that's already on the path to being a legend of the sport, bro.
Yeah. I think, man, like this is such a hard one to break down. It's kind of similar to the co-main. Like, you know, heart says one thing, gut says the other. Is that the same? No, my brain says one thing, my heart says the other. Maybe that's the saying. But, dude, I think the narrative changed so much on Holloway after the Gaethje fight, because again, no one thought, the only people saying he was going to win that fight were Holloway fanboys. There was no like analysis that was like, here's how I see him winning this fight. Like, and then for him to go out and look possibly the best he's looked in his career. I mean, we've said that so many times. It's like he keeps getting better. He keeps having these like career resurgences. The guy is so resilient, but in terms of actually in the octagon, it seemed like after the third Volk fight, he almost like, again, I know he bulked up to 55 for this past one against Gaethje, but like he's kind of been like sitting on his shots more, right? He does have a little bit more power. I think that's a real thing. He hurt Arnold Allen a couple times. Obviously, knocking out Zombie is really nothing crazy, but the guy that just fought Justin Gaethje, I mean, he looked like a world beater, right? He looked like better than I think the version of Max Holloway that like you knew, you know, he could even cater with a minute left in that fight was firing away. Like, again, I know it looked bad. I mean, it was like one of the biggest beatings of all time, but like he never even really got that close to being finished. Like he would get like, I mean, he was covering up in the corner, but like it's the pillow fist thing was real. He was not putting people away for a long time.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but I was just saying about that to my teammate actually today. I'm like, dude, if you really look at it, when he lost to Volkanovski the first time, bro, the second fight in that, when he fought Volk, it's like he knew he had to add stuff to his game to become a better fighter. He starts throwing kicks, more kick. Bro, when he won the championship, threw no kicks, boxing, just boom, boom, 1-2s, like right down the pipe. Bro, the second Volkanovski fight, he's mixing in head kicks. Like
down with a head kick
against Gaethje's mixing in spinning heel kicks.
Yeah,
and it's like, bro, I'm telling you, he's watching the tape. He's going to try the head kicks against Topuria. Topuria's been rocked by head kicks multiple times. Like, he's definitely gonna try that.
Dude, I love you got me fired up because like people don't talk about that. Like he was not in his like initial championship run. He threw no kicks. Like it was like the Poirier like doesn't have like the hip mobility, I don't think, to like step over. But like this guy never threw kicks, bro. And now not only has he added it more again in that second Volk fight after getting his leg, you know, chopped off in the first one by Volk, he was the one, you know, throwing more kicks in that second fight and having a lot of success. He knocked him down with that head kick in the first or second round. And then for him the kick might have been his best weapon against Gaethje, dude. That spinning heel kick, like it hurt him multiple times.
Yeah.
I think I'm not going to compare it to Topuria and Gaethje's style and they're just pure boxing, but not going to do it, right? But Topuria definitely.
Topuria is just on another level.
I know. I'm not comparing it. I'm just saying maybe he does duck a little bit. I'd be a moron to say, oh, Holloway can catch him with that. Obviously, that's on tape now after his last fight. But point being is that this guy is just a student of the game. He's able to adjust and come in with very good game plans, even against Yair. Remember when he turned into a wrestler against Yair? Not to say that's like that big of a feather in your cap. I could take down Yair, but pretty impressive, right? Like it just shows the guy is very smart, and he's going to have a great game plan. Ilia Topuria is going to be the one that cracks that chin, dude. I am so mad. I have to say it. I just can't really. The first show we ever did was on UFC 300, April 13th, and we were making our predictions. And for that fight, again, you go in saying one thing. It is a little bit of a funny. Then we start talking about it, and sometimes you change your mind. I'm already changing my mind so many times that like this is just what I'm thinking during this, 5-minute stretch when we get to it, right? But I was going with Gaethje. The whole buildup was Gaethje. And then as I was saying Justin Gaethje by knockout, as I was saying, I said Max Holloway is going to get his chin cracked. As I was saying that, I could not get it out. I was picturing, because you try to picture what's going to happen, right? I was picturing that happen. And I could not see it. I could not, like, Gaethje fucking with one of his, like, crazy overhand right or the counter left. I'm like, I don't see Max Holloway getting knocked out in this lifetime or the next one. Ilia Topuria, I've never seen someone with the touch of death like him, especially in a smaller weight class. I would compare it to Prime McGregor, but, like, his knockout of Herbert and the other guy that he fought at the Apex that he catches with that body shot and then he just shells up, that overhand right, bro, they go out. And it looks like a bad boxing movie. You know, when the guy gets cracked and he flies away almost, like, these dudes go flying. And he just did it to Aleksandar Volkanovski. I want to ask you something. Have you rewatched the Volk-Ilia fight? Have you watched that at all?
No, but I mean, I remember it, like, completely, to be honest. I watched it multiple times.
So don't let the fake news media try to tell you that fight went differently than it did. I remembered it, not to say Ilia domination, but I remember it from the first minute being like, whoosh, like some of those shots that either landed or they just missed. I was like,
I remember I was at my house with some guys over and we're like, I'm just like, dude, he's gonna land, bro.
And now every way. So I just watched it this week for the first time since.
And then he implemented the calf kicks too, bro.
He kind of like wobbled. He kind of like knocked him down with a calf kick. And this was a guy that I thought he was all boxing, or everyone knows about the wrestling background, but I didn't know he had the kicks. And there we have it there. So, but now you hear people talk about this Volk fight. It almost made me forget how it actually went. And I had this false, because again, when I watched it, I remember being like, this is going to go down at any point here. Like, he's getting close, and then it just happened. But now people are like, oh, Volk was winning that fight. Volk was, like, winning the first and second. He was winning a lot of these exchanges. He was doing damage with the calf kicks. He was controlling all this stuff that, as I was watching, I was like, when does this happen? Like, are we talking about the same fight? He airmailed a couple Ilia that, like, again, it was like, it seemed just like a matter of time. Like, there were at least 2 openings where he got really close to putting his lights out, and then he did it, right? So I get, he had already got knocked out 4 months earlier. I get all the excuses for Volk, but, like, I just think this guy is different. I've thought he had the aura a long time ago. We can get a little bit weird here. He's jacked up. He's a handsome guy. He's inked up, and he just puts people to sleep. He's got a lot of confidence. He doesn't get rattled easily. Everyone's a Max fanboy, so they're just going to say, 10-8 Max, 10-8 Max, and all these, like, verbal exchanges when both of them don't really care. He's paying Max, his compliments. I like that too. He's like, Max is like, he's a fan. And Ilia's like, he's also very stoic. He's kind of calm. He's like, I am a fan. I was a huge fan of yours. Like, unfortunately, like, your time is over, whatever, but I was a big fan.
And no matter what's said, bro, we're all human. Like, Max Holloway's watching the film. He knows what it's not like Max can, and again, Max should be confident. He's an elite fighter. He can win this fight. Like, Max is very live in this fight, but he knows what he's in with. He knows that he's in with the real shit. Like, they both know that this is a high level fight as it gets. I cannot wait for this fight. So, what is your official prediction for this one?
Ilia Topuria is going to knock him out in round number 3. Kills me. Both of these. It's a weird thing with, like, having to go on record with predictions, because I'm the guy who, like, and I know this. I mean, you wrote the book on this. Like, no matter who wins, I could be like, I told you that was going to happen. It sucks. It sucks having to, like, actually put your name.
No, I do like it though, because then we're kind of like,
I know. But it's just funny because, like, again, these two, I'm going to be screaming my head off for Rob, for Max, maybe the 2 most liked guys in the UFC. They don't really have any haters. Again, I think that is playing a factor into this main event, because, like, everyone likes Holloway. Ilia, he's going to become a star after Saturday night if he isn't already. But like, whoosh, this guy, I remember the Herbert knockout. I'm blanking on the other guy, but like those are two of the nastiest knockouts. Again, their head like does a complete, almost a three, like almost just like wobbles around like it's a cartoon. Like he's special. He's the best boxer in the UFC. Honestly, I think he might be the best pure boxer I've ever seen in the UFC. And I mean, the last thing I'll say, I just saw, I mean, against the best strikers that Max has fought for the best boxer in the UFC. I mean, what happens? We're going to act like Poirier? I mean, I think I think we saw it with our own two eyes.
Yeah.
But like, man,
McGregor, Poirier,
and Volk.
Yeah. I mean,
Volk in the third fight again. Like, I mean, I don't know.
And again, it's the same story with these guys. Like Max can come out here and be up 2-0. It don't matter if you get clipped and put out cold, bro. Like these guys are like Volkanovski. Like he's like, yeah, I felt good. I felt in control of the fight, bro. That's just it's everyone's got different styles. He's setting you up. It's not just going there and he can just touch you, but he has to set it up, the angles, the movement, his head movement, and his ability to fucking what's it called? Like sway shots and like, bro, it's crazy, dude.
Even the only time he's gotten caught was the Herbert head kick. And like if you watch that, like that puts people unconscious. Like he got caught again. It could be seen as a negative because he gets caught. It was like a minute into the fight, like. He obviously it was like the Robert Whittaker kind of like, you throw the punch into the head kick. It was a beautiful setup and he caught him clean. I mean, it was like a clean and he just ate it. And then he just comes back and he knocks him out. So that shows he's got a chin. So I could see it going a little bit further, third, fourth round. I will say, I forgot to mention this, I predicted Max Holloway 5th round knockout versus Justin Gaethje. You can go fucking check the tape. I don't know how that didn't go viral. That was our first video, and I picked Max Holloway 5th round knockout. And people want to act like we're not the two biggest sharps on MMA YouTube. What an absolute joke of a platform. Grow up, like, comment, and subscribe. Any last anything else we got about this fight, man? I'm just fired up. Dude. It's a day card. We'll be up watching it. Man, I am juiced.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been more excited for a Saturday walkthrough to finish so I can race home and get this fight card on, bro.
What time do you finish up on a Saturday?
Dude, so we go in for meetings in the morning and then we have like a walkthrough. I think we finish up around like 1 o'clock-ish our time, so it'll be good for this card. So
a little bit of a close call. Well,
yeah.
All right.
I can't wait, bro.
Man, like I said, it's hard to get more excited. And again, I think that's just the power of the UFC.
Khamzat!
I'm so mad. I can't believe, again, as we came on today, I still didn't know who I was going to predict in those two. But man,
dude, I didn't know what I was going to predict till I think you said, "All right, Justin, what are you thinking?" Literally. And last thing I want to say here, we're gonna check our boy here, Mr. Dylan Yasso claims he's an avid listener of the show. He says he watches every episode. He's actually hit me up about when this episode is dropping. He's begging for it, but along with a lot of other subscribers. But
yeah,
Yas, if you really watch all of this and you're watching the end of this here, what are you gonna say when Mr. Chimaev finishes Rob Whittaker? Because you said it was fluke against Usman. You said it was fluke against Burns. You said it was fluke against Kevin Holland. What are you going to say when he comes out in electric fashion and puts Robert Bobby Knuckles Whittaker away early? I just want to know.
It's a good question. Well, what I'll say, Yas, let's see in the comment section. What I will say, you're probably not going to say anything because all of these rat follow. Oh, I listen, yada, yada, yada. It's like, oh, well, now we're going to talk about you in the last minute. Remember when we said, oh, fucking comment the picks and do this, that, and the other thing. And nobody comments because nobody listens. They're all bums. Give us some time, and we're going to take over the MMA YouTube space. Yas, you're an actual bum if you don't comment, brother. But let's say, like I said, Like, comment, subscribe. Awesome card coming up this Saturday. We are juiced up. Let's follow along for some picks. I think I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I don't know. I just got a feeling. A couple upsets, couple favorites that will make us upset. But Ilia versus Max, UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi this Saturday. We are fucking dialed in. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Baby.